Brontë was the parsonage of Haworth, Yorkshire, where her Irish-born father, Patrick Brontë, was the incumbent. Her first novel, Jane Eyre, met with critical acclaim, a remarkable production with freshness and originality, read the critique in the Times of London. Arthur Bell Nicholls, also of Irish birth, became curate to Patrick Brontë. Rumours of a romance with Charlotte were quashed, but Arthur eventually proposed. Patrick was not in favour of the bond. Charlotte and Arthur were wed in a private ceremony on the 29th of June 1854 at 8 a.m. In the words of Jane Eyre, "I married him," but Patrick did not attend. The newlyweds travelled across North Wales to Ireland on their honeymoon Odyssey. What factors may have influenced their decision to visit the Emerald Isle? In 1818, Charlotte's father Patrick wrote The Maid of Killarney, his romantic description a stimulus to visit. Behold how the broad sun dips in that watery mirror and climbs the blushing heavens. Also, Charlotte mentioned Ireland in her letters and novels. The character Jane Eyre wished to go to Ireland as she lay in Edward Rochester's embrace. Literary icons such as William Wordsworth visited Killarney in the footsteps of Scott and Shelley. Harriet Martineau, Charlotte's literary friend, wrote, "Killarney is so striking to the traveller as to be known to all the world." Charlotte's teenage hero, the Duke of Wellington, was born in Ireland. The railway and steam packet companies offered tickets for sale at rail stations in England for tours in Britain and in Ireland. The tickets were valid for 1 month. The venues of the honeymoon Odyssey, as in Charlotte's letters, east to west, Haworth to Conway and Bangor, Holyhead to Dublin, Banagher, southwest to Kilkee Seaside Resort, to Tarbert, Tralee, Killarney, to Glengarriff, Cork City, and homebound via Dublin. Charlotte was a regular letter writer, but during the honeymoon recorded little of the people or the scenery. However, it is possible to create a travel record from guidebooks of the era and the writings of her friends who toured Wales and Ireland. En route by rail to Conway, Charlotte wrote that there were gleams of sunshine, and signed for the first time with her new initials, CBN, Charlotte Bell Nicholls. Charlotte thought Bangor romantic and of striking grandeur. Although the weather was not favourable, a drive through mountain scenery surpassed anything she recalled of the English lakes. Poets and painters were drawn to Snowdon, its summit described as approaching heaven and above the world. Onwards across Anglesey to the rail terminus at Holyhead. From Admiralty Pier, a steamer, Cambria, or a sister ship, conveyed the honeymoon couple across the Irish Sea. To Ireland, in the lines of Thomas Croker, like an emerald set in the ring of the sea. Charlotte recalled, the weather was calm, the passage good. The steamer docked at Kingstown, gateway to Dublin. From there, a short train journey led to the city. The title Dublin, in Irish meaning the Black Pool, refers to a dark pool near Dublin Castle, known to the Danish colonisers as Difflin. College Green. The Parliamentary Gazetteer noted that Dublin was the second city of the Empire and seventh city of Europe, scenery where the bold and the beautiful are intermingled with exquisite effects. Charlotte and Arthur met his brother Alan and cousins Mary Anna and Samuel Bell. For 2 days they drove over a great part of the city, and so they visited Trinity College Library and Museum. Trinity College was Arthur's alma mater. On then to Banagher, in Irish meaning pointed hills or rocks. The township title reflects the hill, or from rocks in the River Shannon, which caresses its boundary. A brief coach jaunt ushered the honeymoon party from Shannonside to Cuba Court Domain, through the open cast-iron gates to the avenue beyond. Cuba House was a Georgian residence of 2 stories and attic over a basement. At the entrance was a formal garden, while front and rear were bedecked with linden and shrubs. The Royal Schoolhouse stood nearby. Charlotte was unwell on reaching Cuba House and wrote, "My cough was become very bad." Arthur's Aunt Harriet nursed her with care and gentleness, so that within a few days Charlotte was greatly better. St. Paul's Church was a likely venue for Sunday service. In her novel Shirley, Charlotte wrote about a visit to a wild bog in Connaught. Nearby in Connaught lay Clonfert Cathedral, resting place of St. Brendan the Navigator. A leisurely trip on the Shannon could reach Clonmacnoise, an ancient ecclesiastical centre on the island of saints and scholars. The noblest youth of Ireland, France and England crowded her halls. In Charlotte's words, past days were spoken of, the grief of parting, the regrets of absence. The steamer plied out of sight from Banagher on the majestic River Shannon. Edmund Spenser lived in Munster for a time. In his epic poem, The Fairy Queen, he wrote of the spacious Shannon spreading like a sea. Thence to Limerick, along the estuary to Kilrush, and on by carriage to Kilkee. Kilkee, seaside resort and renowned watering place on Ireland's western seaboard, as shown on the map of Charlotte and Arthur's Honeymoon Odyssey. Kilkee, in Irish, meaning the Church of Key. From there Charlotte wrote to her friend Catherine Wooler, "Your kind letter reached me in a wild and remote spot. So bold and grand a coast I never yet saw." Charlotte and Arthur settled in the West End Hotel. Tennyson, a Kilkee visitor, painted a romantic scene. "And on her lover's arm she leant, and round her waist she felt it fold, and far across the hills they went, in that new world which is the old." A splendid view of the long sandy beach, its Celtic torque shape on which to gambol, as in Tennyson's Daydream, with bracelets of the diamond bright, her constant beauty doth inform, stillness with love, and day with light. On this map, X marks the beach and West End Hotel. The blue heart marks the southern cliff walk, and waves mountain high, silvery spray, descends in 1,000 fantastic forms. The amphitheatre had the sea as its stage. The wild western sea entered and burst into the arena with a thundering roar. Charlotte and Arthur saw the Atlantic coming in all foam. From the North Cliffs, a view of Kilkee and the West End, the English statesman Lord John Manners wrote that Kilkee was "this western Brighton, with every facility for cold, warm, salt water and seaweed baths." "We have been to Tarbert," wrote Charlotte. Charlotte and Arthur visited Tarbert House, home to the Leslie family. Tarbert House was an early Georgian Queen Anne-style residence. A wishing tree stood proudly in a nearby meadow. Whispered wishes were invoked. On their trip from Tarbert to Killarney, Charlotte and Arthur were likely B and Coney patrons. William Makepeace Thackeray sketched a comparable scene on his journey to Killarney some years previously. Killarney, Irish meaning Church of Sloes, was a lure for local and international visitors, due in large part to Thomas and Anne Brown, who established the area in the mid-18th century to promote tourism. Harriet Martineau visited Killarney just 2 years previously. She found the scenery transcendent. We are told that $1 million of money now enters Ireland annually in the shape of tourists, so striking to the traveller as to be known to all the world. The main lake, with its islands, the castle on Ross Island, onwards to Muckross and the upper lake, the forests, ancient woodlands, and the distant mountains, each with a story to tell. The Gap of Dunloe, 7 miles from Killarney, was a deep rugged ravine of about 3 miles in length. 4 small deep lakes, dark sullen waters augment the wild character of the scene. Charlotte wrote, "We saw and went through the Gap of Dunloe. A sudden glimpse of a very grim phantom came on us in the gap. Perhaps a vision of the legendary Fuca. Charlotte's horse reared and she was thrown on the rocky path. The mare kicked, trampled all about her. Charlotte wrote that she was neither bruised by the fall nor touched by the mare's hooves. The only feeling left was gratitude for more sakes than my own." Glengareth, Irish meaning the Rough Glen, was the next venue, 35 English miles from Killarney. In the verses of Lord Byron, "Mountains have fallen, filling up the ripe green valleys with destruction's splinters." Thackeray was impressed. Within 5 miles round the pretty inn of Glengareth, he enthused, there is a country of the magnificence of which no pen can give an idea. "I would like to be a great prince," mused Thackeray, "and bring a train of painters over to make a set of pictures of the place. The scene was exceedingly wild and picturesque, and I took out a sketchbook and began to draw. A view from the castle, Bantry Bay, that was the Bay of Glengareth. Lady Georgiana Chatterton enjoyed the same scenery and penned in her Rambles in the South of Ireland, 'We are in ecstasies.' Cork, Irish meaning a marshy terrain, occupies the centre of a deep valley and is enclosed on every side by a rich girdle of high hills, through which the River Lee pursues its course to the sea. A view of Cork's quays, bridge, and the River Lee, as the first blush of morning salutes the rose, the glories of the city, the people, the streets and bridges. I am in your power. Lead on, fair mistress, for your captive will follow." Shandon Church, Irish meaning the old fort, is mentioned in particular on account of the lyrics by Reverend Francis Mahony. "With deep affection and recollection, I often think on those Shandon bells." Once more in Dublin, Charlotte enthused about the scenery during their honeymoon Odyssey, some parts of which exceeded all she ever imagined. But Patrick Brontë was unwell. "So home we are going." Charlotte wrote of Arthur, "The best earthly comfort that a woman ever had. My heart is knit to him. Our honeymoon will shine our life long."